It's quite unfortunate. Some of the developing stories include that particular special sitting convened by the Council of Governors. We'll be keeping tabs on that as we proceed in the day. Now, let's bring you up to speed with stories that have been making headlines in the last 12 hours or so. And the Kenya Certificate of Secondary School Education exams officially kicked off with learners sitting for the oral and practical examinations across the country. The practical exams are expected to conclude on October 31st before the written exams begin on the 4th of November. 996,078 candidates are sitting for this year's national examination in 10,765 centers. Our reporter, Joseph Wakungu, has the details of the examination timetable.
The 2025 Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education examinations kicked off Tuesday countrywide with no major incident reported, marking the official opening of this year's national assessment season. Candidates studying French and German languages were among the first to do their oral examinations. Similarly, students who elected music and Kenya Sign Language were also examined. Each candidate had 15 minutes allocated for the practical test, which ends Friday. Candidates being examined for Arabic language will conclude their oral exams on Monday, 27th October. According to the Kenya National Examination Council, written exams are scheduled to start on November 4th at 8 a.m., with learners sitting for mathematics in the morning session and English comprehension and literature in the afternoon. The exams will end on November 21st. 996,078 candidates are sitting for this year's KCSE exams in 10,765 centers. There are 12,126 supervisors, 54,782 invigilators, and 22,247 security officers deployed to oversee the exams. In a statement, NEC vowed to ensure the exams timetable is adhered to and all candidates uphold integrity during the examinations.
I want to wish all the candidates who are writing their exams all the very best. Now, former Chief Justice David Maraga has questioned the constitutionality and legality of the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act and Privatization Act recently assented into law. I beg your pardon. Maraga says the law risks being used to curtail political dissent and protest, as well as give unfettered powers to the government to sell the nation's strategic assets, benefiting a few individuals at the expense of the country's progress.
The Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act and the Privatization Act that were part of the 8 critical pieces of legislation that are signed into law last Wednesday may be headed for legal battles.
Conference or press briefing.
Former CJ David Maraga has joined a section of Kenyans questioning the interest behind the new laws.
The amendments to the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act, in essence, seek to control and crush political dissent and protests in the guise of expanding protections from cybercrimes, cyber criminals.
Maraga says that the computer misuse and cybercrimes threatens the freedom of Kenyans to hold the government to account, as it gives powers to an unconstitutional committee to investigate, prosecute and judge, yet there are courts.
If there are any allegations, if there are anybody who is aggrieved by misuse of the social media, by people in the social media, the courts are there. Let the courts, those grievances be taken to court and be dealt with, but not to give to one individual, to deal with them. At a stroke of a pen, one individual can close several accounts, including all of us here.
Maraga and team also took issue with the Privatization Act, which they claim gives the National Treasury CS powers to sell strategic national assets without public participation.
In fact, the Act even exempts publication of the names of the buyers if the privatization is by an initial public offering, IPO. Simply put, if they sell to themselves or their proxies, the Kenyan people will not get to know. Simply put, if they sell even strategic assets to foreigners and put them beyond the country's control, the Kenyan people will not get to know.
Under the United Green Movement Party, the team has vowed to move to court.
Kenya Pipeline is not one of the loss-making parastatals, but it is up for sale. But I'm sure those who are buying are listening to this also. We will seek orders in those court petitions to declare whatever process that has been done illegally null and void.
That particular bill there has those two acts there, the Privatization Act as well as the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act there, has continued to elicit debate across all quarters, with Kenyans, a majority of them, questioning the motive behind assenting those two particular acts, making them acts there, or rather legitimizing them. Amendments therein, and some of the firms that are set to be privatized include the Kenya Pipeline Corporation. You can be part of this particular conversation. Get us on X. What's your thought in regard to that matter? Now, the Employment and Labor Relations Court has granted conservatory orders stopping Kiambu County from dismissing specialist doctors who are members of KPMDU. Judge Helen Wasilwa has also granted a temporary injunction stopping recruitment of new specialist doctors in the county.
Kiambu sacked doctors through their lawyer Henry Kurauka informed the court that their purported sacking and subsequent recruitment of new ones was unfair, unjust, and violated labor laws and the constitution. The judge has certified the petition urgent and ordered the inter partes hearing on the 28th of October 2025. The over 700 health workers have downed their tools in Kiambu County, demanding resignation of Governor Kimani Wamatangi over alleged mismanagement of healthcare services. The over 4-month strike has disrupted health services within the county, a move that has led to patients seeking healthcare services in neighboring counties. This as the Council of Governors claims Health Cabinet Secretary Adan Duale is to be blamed for the crisis facing the health sector. Speaking during the 27th Annual Kenya Clinical Officers Association Conference in Naivasha, the governors, through their health committee chair, said the ministry is on the verge of collapse due to constant policy shifts and poor coordination.
If we stopped politicizing that matter, we would have solved it 3 years ago. But every other time we move, number one, we have a challenge of high turnover of CSs in that ministry. Even before you have agreed with one, we are now in our third one, who is also becoming a bully. And we must say this, because this is a new expenditure, we want a conditional grant that will ensure, number one, these UHC staff for the next 2 or 3 years are assured of their salaries in the way they are, the SRC, because allowing them to just walk away and you are told go to counties, there's going to be a challenge. The second thing that sized, the need to caution county government employees from losing their cover due to delayed exchequer disbursements.
SRC washaweza kupatia ile direction na wakasema allowances fulani ziongezwe kama risk allowance na wamekubaliana nasi.
Now, a family in Homa Bay is demanding justice following the death of their kin Yvonne Lucy, who died while receiving treatment at the intensive care unit after sustaining gunshot injuries in an alleged police shooting. The officer suspected of firing the shot is reported to be in police custody. However, the family claims he has been making repeated phone calls to the victim's family, urging them to drop the matter and pushing for the case to be transferred from Homa Bay Law Courts to Kendu Bay.
Yvonne is reported to have passed on in Homa Bay on Thursday, sparking outrage from the family, who are demanding justice. According to the family, she was shot by a police officer who had fired his weapon to disperse a crowd who had gathered in memory of the late former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga. The family is accusing the police of allowing the suspect to access his mobile phone while in custody. saying he was likely to interfere with the ongoing investigations.
Na huyu jamaa ambaye amefanya hiki kitendo anapigia marafiki wangu ati nimsamee. Sana msamea kwa nini? Na sijui alijua alipiga my daughter ama alijua alipiga nani. Saa hizi tuko hapa 5 minutes ago anapigia my son ati tusiende court Homa Bay, tuende court Kindu Bay. Kwani kitu litendeka Kindu Bay ama litendeka Homa Bay?
They question why the officer appeared to enjoy privileges despite being under investigation for a murder-related offense.
Haki yetu lazima tupate.
But it's also saddening if the police officer who is said to have killed her is calling me and he keeps on calling our family. So I wonder where this police officer gets the phone and is in custody to continue calling me and also calling friends of my dad so that they can talk to us.
A stray bullet reportedly struck Yvonne, who was heading home from her business. She was pronounced dead hours later while undergoing treatment. The Independent Policing Oversight Authority, IPO, and the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, DCI, have since taken over the matter as investigations continue.
I know IPO and DCI already have the case, but we want to see justice to come. However much it might delay because it's a case of murder, but we as a family, we want to see justice for my sister.
Mitigate justice. Now, those who had hopes to join the National Police Service will have to wait a little longer. This is after the Employment and Labour Relations Court promised to give its verdict on the police recruitment exercise after hearing the merits and demerits of stopping the process. Now, the case filed by former Kilomid legislator Harun Mwau seeks to bar the National Police Service Commission from taking part in the hiring exercise.
Tuesday at the Employment and Labour Relations Court, and Justice Helen Wasilwa had submissions on the police recruitment also. In the petition, Harun Mwau, through his lawyer Martin Gitonga, argued there is a distinction between members of the service and persons holding or acting in offices in the service.
If indeed the National Police Service Commission was the body truly entitled to employ police officers, no doubt the Inspector General of the National Police Service would have been the chairman of that commission.
Judge Wasilo was further told that it's the prerogative of the Inspector General of Police and the National Police Service to recruit, train, employ, assign, promote, suspend and dismiss members of the service.
In fact, the opening line of that advertisement is the Kenya Defence Forces is pleased to announce recruitment drive. So similarly, in our case, we are saying it is a National Police Service that also equally, as a national security organ, possess that mandate to recruit and not the National Police Service Commission.
On the other hand, the National Police Service Commission stated its role in the managing human resource functions in the service is constitutionally established under the 2010 Constitution.
The Inspector General does not have powers of appointing to office and terminating services in the National Police Service, and that is a preserve of the National Police Service Commission.
The Commission also traced its establishment to post-2007 election reforms, noting that its creation was a deliberate constitutional response to the findings of the Commission of Inquiry into the post-election violence.
Subject to this Constitution and legislation, Roman 2, appoint persons to hold or act in those offices. It enables the Public Service Commission to establish those offices or abolish those offices under one.
The petition filed by Mwau on September 36 to nullify the police recruitment advertisement published on September 19th, claiming that the NPSC has no authority to hire uniformed officers.
The nature of the petition and the agency involved in it, I propose to deliver your judgment on the 30th of this month, which is next week, on Thursday.
With the petitioner averring that persons acting or holding offices in the service have no power to employ or train. The National Police Service Commission warned the court to strike out the case, citing it raises security concerns because it has halted the process. Ruth Wamboi reporting from Milimani's High Court.
So those who are eyeing to join the National Police, well, just a little bit longer until the courts pronounce itself. To business now, the International Fund for Agricultural Development has rolled out agribusiness hubs to support young people to access credit for working capital and skill training to ensure their venture is sustainable. Here's Benson Rioba with the details.
Kenya is among African countries that are struggling with limited working capital for the agriculture sector that receives less than 10% of total lending from commercial banks. Players in the agriculture sector are calling for restructuring of the financial systems to empower more youth access credit.
In agriculture for too long, we have been focusing on only production. And right now the focus is to do value addition. And that is why the government of Kenya is rolling out county aggregation and industrial parks.
The International Fund for Agricultural Development has rolled out a 5-year agribusiness hubs project that will create an integrated financial system to support the youth.
We are working with the government of Kenya very closely to ensure that they have access to financing. So under our rural financial project, we're ensuring that youths have the requisite, first of all, skills to grow their businesses and then skills to also manage their business.
The hubs will connect young people to opportunities for skills development, entrepreneurship support, finance, markets and networking.
Give the youths the skills which are required at the present and in the near future, maybe 5 to 7 years or 10 years.
In farming is when you take your produce to the market and you having followed the right practices, you get your yield that is enable you to break even, that you are earning.
Still on matters trade is that trade and uncertainty, debt and falling investment among developing countries will take center stage in the ongoing 16th United Nations Conference on Trade and Development in Geneva. UNCTAD Secretary General Rebecca Griesman warned that these issues are weighing heavily on poor countries, but highlighted that the new trade patterns, clean technologies and artificial intelligence offer a chance to reshape the global economy for greater inclusion and resilience.
The 16th United Nations Conference on Trade and Development opens in Geneva, bringing together 195 member states to engage in high-level dialogue on global trends and assess pressing trade and development issues, weighing policy options and craft multilateral responses. Under the theme Shaping the Future, Driving Economic Transformation for Equitable, Inclusive and Sustainable Development, discussions will examine how countries can navigate today's uncertainties with a focus on practical routes to resilient supply chains, fairer finance, productive investment, and all-inclusive digital economy.
Global investment flows are retreating for the second year in a row, eroding tomorrow's growth. And 2.6 billion people remain offline, most of them women in developing countries. Freight costs are now too volatile, hitting landlocked countries and small island developing states.
UNCTAD Secretary General Rebecca Griesman noted that the geographical growth has shifted, with 3/4 of it coming from the developing world, adding that trade itself is changing. Clean technologies are undergoing a boom and data now flow across borders that containers cannot cross.
If we stay on the defensive and continue with business as usual, yesterday's commodity dependence will be tomorrow's destiny. Today's debt burdens will become permanent features of the landscape. The digital divide will grow too wide to bridge.
Across more than 40 high-level sessions, the leaders called for bold and effective reforms to rebalance the rules of global commerce, decisive action on debt, bridge the digital divide, and ensure climate justice is reflected in trade and investment, especially for least developed countries.
As we wrap up business, just to remind you that the Department of Cooperatives has, through a Gazette notice dated the 9th of October, directed the setting up of an inquiry into Afya Sacco misappropriation, alleged misappropriation of 550 million shillings, and submit the report within 21 days to the Ministry of MSMEs development there, just trying to bring together, or rather accountability within the cooperative movement there. The regulator flagged these particular misappropriations sometime in their report of 2024. We'll be keeping tabs on that. Now to sports. The Gambia national women's football team is expected in Kenya today for their crucial 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations qualifier against Kenya Harambee Starlets, who are raring to make their second appearance in the continental showpiece. The Starlets will host the first leg second round match at the Nyayo National Stadium this Friday, before the return leg on Tuesday next week at the Stade La Dior There's in Senegal.
Harambee Starlets have 2 days left to prepare for their two-legged Women Africa Cup of Nations qualifier against the Gambia, and the team is hopeful that the work they've put in will propel them to a first-leg victory on Friday. The players, led by Ruth Ngosa and Violet Nanjala, say they have loaded their ammunition ready for the tie, as most of them hunger for a chance to play at the Continental Tournament to be staged in Morocco next year.
Hii ni opportunity ya wengi wetu hapa kucheza AFCON, so najua game ya Friday, najua itakuwa easy, but kulingana na tizi tumetrain, I think itakuwa easy kwetu, so sisi tuko ready kama wachezaji.
Tuna imani hiyo session yenye tumepewa na coach, na matumani yetu ni kushinda hiyo game ya on Friday, na tuko na morali iko juu, players wanajituma, na we really need these 3 points at home.
As loaded as they are still calling on Kenyans to turn up in large numbers to support them given their home advantage. Starlets are aiming to make a return to the Women's Africa Cup of Nations for the first time since their debut appearance in 2016. The 16th edition of the Women's Africa Cup of Nations will be played from the 17th of March to 3rd of April next year in Morocco.
Now that effectively puts a cap on matters in the headlines here on Good Morning Kenya. Let's just give you a sneak peek of what to expect in the course of the day. And as far as our diary is concerned, there on your screen, it is the second day of the KCSE. That is the second day of the KCSE examinations, practical exams to conclude on the 30th of October. Written exams begin on the 4th of November, where 9,996,078 candidates are sitting for these exams. We wish you all the best as you write those particular exams. We're also going to be having quite the activities at the Kenyatta Convention Center there. Among them is a meeting that is going to be discussing and highlighting matters of labor relations as well as employment across the regional bloc. This is being spearheaded by none other than IGAD. This is the third IGAD Ministerial Conference on Labor Employment and Labor Migration. It's a 3-day conference that kicks off today in Nairobi. We are going to be keeping tabs on that. Also within KICC, we have various exhibitions on matters agriculture, as well as a meeting between the Kenya Private Sector Association in regard to that matter. Back home, the Council of Governors is going to be holding an urgent extraordinary meeting this morning. This is according to a statement that has already been shared to various media houses as well as public spaces by none other than the chair, that is Ahmed Abdullahi. This is in regard and in response to those alleged utterances by Nyeri Governor Mutahi Kahigo there. We're going to be keeping tabs on that and so much more. Visit our website www.kbc.co.ke for further details in regard to what the day holds. Now I leave you in the capable hands of Victor Law as he takes you through the conversation this morning that you are welcome to. Can get us on X at KBC Channel 1. I'm Regina Manyara. Have a pleasant day ahead. Over to you, Victor.